there, welcome back to part 2 of my sew and tell, showing you my makes for my trousers and skirts. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, you can watch it here. Thank you so much for everybody's comments in the last videos that I posted. I got a bit overwhelmed with them, to be honest, so I'm really sorry if I haven't been able to reply to your comment. I absolutely really appreciate everybody who has commented, and I do read them all and I love hearing from you. Let's go on to my final pair of trousers, which were an absolute, they were really difficult. They were really difficult for a number of reasons. It's this pattern from McCall's, which was one of their most recent releases, and you can see it's quite a kind of unusual, different trouser pattern in that it's got this V-shaped yoke in the front, very kind of high-waisted style, which was kind of popular around the early 2000s, and I loved this style of jeans on me. I had loads of pairs, and I love the kind of corset style that cinches you in and sucks you right in at the waist, but is kind of still comfy, I guess. So when I saw this pattern, I thought, great, I'm going to give them a go and see what they work out like. Now, I didn't make a toile because I figured that there is so much room for adjusting these. You have got side pieces, a bit like the Dorians. You've got a side vertical piece, and then you've got a middle vertical piece on the front and back. So the bottom of the legs are 8 pieces, and then you've got this yoke here, and then a yoke at the back, and then you've got the waistband. So I figured you've got so many adjustment points that if I just basted them all together, I'd be able to check the fit and see where I needed to adjust them before I actually sewed them together. And you can see my early fitting, see here the pictures from when I originally sewed them together, and this was before I stitched the yoke on, and you can see there are some real issues around the kind of crotch, lower fly, top of my legs area, and I got a lot of advice from various fitting groups on Facebook. The fold line group I find really useful for fitting issues, but it can be overwhelming because you tend to get a lot of differing opinions. And what I do find with sewing groups online is you have to really evaluate the kind of pedigree of the person who's giving you the advice, because loads and loads of people said there's too much fabric centre front, and actually that wasn't the issue at all. The issue was I needed to take it out vertically, so I needed to take it out from horizontal seams, and it wasn't anything to do with excess fabric centre front. It was to do with the depth of the crotch rise. Because I'm on those groups a lot, I kind of know who are the experienced sewists amongst those groups, and so I will dismiss some kind of bits of advice and I will take more heed of some other advice. Obviously people direct you to vlogs as well, and blogs that tell you about fitting, which I do a lot of research, do a lot of reading, and so yeah, you find out which bits to take, and sometimes people won't come up with the right answer on there, you know. One of the things that was causing a lot of pulling in this area here, and you can see actually even when they're not being worn, is the bottom of the fly, and it was to do with that I hadn't clipped this seam properly, and I hadn't clipped in close enough around the bottom of the fly, and that was causing a lot of the pulling. Now that was something that you probably couldn't have expected people to guess. It was, these things only really come with quite a lot of trial and error and experience, and as I say, it can be really frustrating. You have to go into these adjustments with a lot of patience, which for me means kind of putting the project on one side and revisiting it a few days later. And then you have to make each adjustment one at a time. So people suggested I needed to add into the front crotch curve but scoop out at the rear crotch curve, which I did one thing at a time. So the front one is called a flat pubis adjustment, and the back is it called low butt or something? Anyway, you scoop out the back crotch curve. Now from the original pictures you can see that I thought they were fitting really nicely around my butt, but what somebody said correctly was that because they were tight around my butt, they were pulling all the fabric towards the front like this, from the front rather, and that was what was causing a lot of the pull lines. So I had to scoop a lot out of the back crotch curve, and when you do that you have to add it to the sides because you're obviously removing fabric. And because this was not the flat pattern, I could only add it to the sides up to the amount of the seam allowance. So I did finish up making a really narrow seam allowance at the sides and in the centre back seam. So there was a lot of tweaking to be done, and then of course that meant the yoke needed to be tweaked. And you can see in the final pictures of me wearing them that there are still some issues around the crotch. Because I've spent so long fitting these trousers, I look at them now and think, oh my God, that's awful, it's so noticeable. But then I think about if I was wearing these ready to wear, I'd actually, because they feel like a good fit, they fit well on my waist and on my bum. I think I'd probably, if I picked up these trousers in Topshop and put them on, I think they were a great fit. So you have to try and remember not to be too hard on yourself. I do really like the style of them. I think that I need to make all these adjustments on the flat pattern and make a trial of these to really get the fit bang on. I think that a lot of the issue for me is to do with the length in the body. Because I'm short, I probably need a shorter rise, but then actually I've got a bit of a tum, so I need a small full belly adjustment, and I need a big full bum adjustment. So it's to do with adding the depth in the right places and taking away the depth in the places that I don't need it. So it's actually going to be quite complicated for me to get trousers that fit correctly. In the fitting videos that I plan to do after we've done the bodice fitting, I want to do the Palmer Pletch fitting for their trouser pattern, which is a McCall's trouser pattern, and really kind of finesse that fit on me so that when I try other McCall's trouser patterns, I kind of know off the bat what I need to do, whether I need to take length from the rise or where I need to add it, etc. So it was kind of good and kind of bad. I do really like the trousers that I finished up with, and I think I'll probably get quite a bit of wear out of them. I think that they're a nice alternative to kind of skinny jeans because they've got this yoke for the fit at the waist and hips. I really like the super high waist on them. As well as my adventures in trouser fitting, I decided to have a bit of a delve into making skirts as well. Skirts are something that I don't wear a lot of, and I haven't really made any of, I think, since I started sewing. I know I bought the Tilly and the Buttons Ariel pattern really early on because I love that skirt pattern. I remember I had one almost exactly like the one I'm going to show you in a minute that was from Topshop back in the early 2000s, and I wore it until basically it was too worn out to be donated to charity. I loved that skirt to bits, and the Ariel pattern's really similar, so I decided to make with this black stretch twill a very similar version of it. I didn't want a black skirt that looked kind of office appropriate. I wanted something that looked a little bit more casual, so I used this bright gold top stitching and added bum pockets, and I added top stitching around the hem here and at the side seams, and it is such an easy and quick make. I absolutely loved it so much, and I immediately cut out another one in denim that's waiting to be stitched up. So that is the Ariel skirt. Oh, I made it kind of knee length. Oh, the other thing I did with this is I widened it out at the hem because I didn't want a skirt that looked kind of officey, because I only ever wear, like for work I used to wear high heels and stuff, but now I only ever wear either flat trainers or platform boots. I wanted a skirt that looked good with those. I wanted something that didn't look too formal. So what I did was I widened it at the hem. You'll be able to see better from the pictures of me wearing it. So I basically made it into an A-line, and to do that it was super easy. Followed the lines of the skirt from, Tilly always does a notch at the waist and at the hip, and so I followed the lines of the skirt from the waist to the hip notch, and then I widened it out a certain amount, can't remember what it was, maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches from the hip notch to the hem length, and did that on the front and back piece, which means that the seams are the same size. So that was a really easy adjustment, and I think that shape just looks a bit more casual, a bit better on me. Love it. The last one I'm going to show you I made for SewVintage September, which obviously I do sew a lot of vintage anyway. I love vintage patterns. I think that they always have more design detail. I think that the sewing instructions are better. They give you loads of useful information. So they tell you how to, for instance, I found a sewing pattern, I think it might have been this one, that told you how to block fabric that was off grain and how to sew stretch fabrics. I just think that they are, as I was saying earlier, I like brief instructions. They manage to convey quite a lot of quite sophisticated and advanced sewing information in very brief, well-written instructions. I found sewing with vintage patterns really helped up my sewing game a lot, and because I've been sewing with them kind of from the very first pattern I made was a vintage pattern, I think it's helped my sewing loads. So I picked this pattern out for SewVintage September because I've wanted to make it for a long time, and it is this denim skirt, and I thought when I made it that I would never wear it. I thought it was a style that wasn't flattering on me, didn't look good on me. Because of me being very short in the leg, I thought it made me look really, really short. But actually when I tried it on for these photographs, I really liked the look of it. So I think I will wear it quite a lot. So it was a very easy and quick make. I did have some issues with the fit, which you can see at the back. I think for my shape, I could really do with a back yoke on this type of skirt, which obviously this doesn't have. I know the pictures make it look like I need a sway back adjustment, but I actually think the issue is that I need, again, a full bum adjustment, because I think that the reason it's riding up is because there's not enough fabric on the bottom, on the bum part, and so that's causing the fabric to find the narrowest part of me, which is obviously further up. It's purely my own fault, I think, because what I did for this pattern was the waist was a lot too small for me. So because it's a straight waistband, I just measured my waist, elongated the waistband to the length of my waist, and then added in enough on the pattern pieces to match my waist and hip measurements. So basically I redrew the pattern, you know, it was completely different to the pattern, but it looks okay. I think that as an exercise in just trying something out and seeing whether or not I liked it, it was quite a good, easy, quick sew, and I did some fancy sewing on the back pockets. I did a J and a J on my bum pockets, so that was just something that was just a bit fun for a bit of different. So I really like it. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this romp through my pants and skirts and my sort of touching on all the fitting issues. I am still planning the fitting videos that I've promised. I haven't forgotten about you, it's just I haven't been feeling too great, so I haven't been well enough to sew up my toile yet. but as soon as I do that, I shall do some filming. It will happen, it just may take some time. So thank you for staying with me. Just to tell you what I'm wearing, it is a heavily hacked version of the Tilly and the Buttons Tabitha t-shirt, and I've been making loads of these lately and I really love them, and I'm going to show you in a different video how I make them with frills and puff sleeves and frills and furbelows. Alright, I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me today. I certainly have enjoyed spending time with you. I'm sending lots of love to you from Camden. Bye, Sew Sisters. Bye.